Uh, did the meeting got cancelled? Did the call got ended? Can anyone respond, please?
No, no,
Yeah,
Yes.
I was
it got
on.
cancelled.
Yeah, it got dropped in between.
But yeah, but we can join again.
Excuse me, ma'am, are you there?
Yeah, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
Oh,
can I introduce myself?
yeah. Please go ahead.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Anjali Sharma and I'm from Sikkim. And currently I'm working as an assistant lecturer. And I have always been fascinated by the psychology subject as I've learned psychology during my graduation, but that was a very brief introduction kind of only. So I just wanted to learn more about psychology, and also I hope to be counselor one day. So so I'm here.
Yeah, that's really nice. That's really nice. Glad to have you here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. I think we just lost the connection and we can't see a lot of people joined here. He's just slowly joining. Right. Okay, can we have the next one, please? Uh, Danish.
Yes. Yeah. So good evening, everyone. So I'm Danish and I'm from Hyderabad. Basically, I'm from North, but now I'm born in Hyderabad itself. So my coming in here in psychology is after my 12th. Actually, I met with a very fatal accident. So it gave me a very big scar on my skull. So I was maybe 2 years I wasn't bad. Maybe there's no hospital in Hyderabad where in which I wasn't admitted in ICU. I have seen every ICU in those 2 years after my accident, after my 12th. So in those days I have read many books and I've gone through many doctors. So today all of my friends are actually doctors, elders to me. I don't have any kind of friend who are aged, like who are my, well, like close to my age actually. So in those days I got interested in psychology and actually theology as well. So I have written an entrance as well, but after that what happened was my CSF was leaking from my nose. So my doctor suggested me not to go in psychology and journalism because it might give me a kind of what do I say, the brain what do I say, strain on my brain. That is why I didn't go for psychology and I studied BCom. So after that, BCom
All right.
completed, and now I didn't go for job. I
Mhm.
did 1 year job in Facebook, and now eventually God brought again back me to this route of psychology.
Okay.
I hope to become a very good psychologist.
Okay, fine. Come on. We'll just have one or two people more and then we'll just start with today's class. So we have Kirti, sorry. Yeah.
Hi, ma'am, and hi, everyone. This is Kriti. I live in Manali in Himachal, and I work remotely as HR in an IT startup. So, because of my job, I come across various situations where I think psychology is important, and I've gone through certain personal situations also, and realized how we can make a difference through this field. So that's why I'm here.
Okay, great. Glad to have you here. And
Thank
we
you.
have this name iPhone. I don't know what's the name of the person, but it's showing iPhone here. So I don't know if that person can introduce themselves, would be great. I don't know.
I have an iPhone.
Okay, but this is not there. Yeah.
Can you please check the name? I mean, it will be very embarrassing if I start introducing myself.
No, it's okay. What's your name? You can just introduce yourself. Hi, my name is this.
Yeah, hi, I'm Nandita.
Yeah.
And I'm a homemaker, but otherwise I'm an architect and an MBA by profession. But I love being a homemaker. But now since my boys both have gone out to work and to study respectively, so I have a lot of time. And I've been always intrigued by the human mind and the emotion that it carries with it.
Right.
So that is the reason I really want to study these topics, because there's so much of stress in today's life. Everybody goes through that. And I thought let me give back to the society by at least even if I could help one child, that would be great. So that is the reason I want to do this course.
Okay, fine. All right. So now we'll begin with the class today. And the topic that for today is stress and anxiety. So we are going to be talking in detail about this topic, but before starting with today's topic, I want you all to participate and help me understand that what does stress and anxiety means to you. You know, it's very important to understand this topic in detail. So I'm sure we all must have gone through situations that has made us felt stressed, or we call it that, you know, we are feeling stressed about. It could be situation, it could be people, it could be anything that you could define with. So how would you define this term, and what is the understanding that you have about stress? What does stress mean to you? Yes, anyone? Yes, please go ahead.
So for me, I feel something in case I'm feeling very anxious about something, and it could be a physical emotion or a stressful in something in my mind. I'm going through it, so that causes a lot of stress to me.
All right. Can you
So
give me-
I think stress is something when you can't accomplish what you have thought of, like when you have aimed something and when you're lagging, when you're not, like accomplishing it, some disturbance that causes you when you
Right.
can't do what you're supposed to, maybe some goal or anything that you're not like you're unable to do it, when you're unable to due to a lot of reasons, external, internal, whatever it is. When you
Right.
can't achieve it, when you can't reach there, that is when that disturbance caused in your mind is called stress.
Okay, okay, very well explained. The disturbance that is caused is, you know, we call it as stress. Okay, all right. Anything else that is coming to your mind?
And anxiety
And
is
one
something.
thing also,
Yes.
like if we are not able to share our feelings or like our thoughts, whatever we are having in our mind, then also we feel stressed.
Right, right.
And anxiety is something that is caused, that is the fear added to the stress.
Absolutely.
When there is some fear, when you're underconfident, and when there is some fear added to that stress, that is when the anxiety triggers.
Right, right.
I
Okay.
guess
Yeah.
stress is the machine. Stress is, it comes from the subconscious mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, hi, this is Smita. I haven't introduced myself. I was here all this while. Anyhow, I just wanted to explain what I think stress is.
Right.
Stress is basically something that we experience, which has a trigger, like we are not able to complete something on time, or we are worried about something. You know, it has a tangible, or it has a real trigger to which we have a mental emotional response to, whereas anxiety on the other hand could be imaginary as well. The real situations or a tangible situation may not really exist, but it is just our thinking and overthinking also can cause anxiety in us. So they are almost used interchangeably also as stress and anxiety, but they do have certain features that make them different from each other.
Understood. All right.
And then stress happens, you can overcome stress shortly, but anxiety might really require some long-term process.
Okay, fair enough. Very rightly explained also what you felt about thing. Anybody else? Can anybody give me examples now? Because we understand that, what does it mean? But any live examples that you have experienced?
Like, ma'am, we are having stress of our classes.
Yeah.
It is on the timing when we are having working hours.
Hmm.
So we are stressed because like now we are attending the classes, but also we are having in our mind that after 7 o'clock, what we have to do, what work I have to finish. So this is stress.
Okay.
Can I say?
Very simply, can I say an example for stress and anxiety? Stress is a student going to collect his answer paper while it is being distributed and worrying about what his marks are. Anxiety is thinking soon after the exam, you're worried about what marks you might get.
Yes.
So it's very simply said with the same example as what stress and anxiety.
Absolutely.
Anxiety was something which we got during the Corona times.
Yeah.
that feeling of doom, that what if something happens to me. I had a panic attack, and I was like, I had very high heartbeat, and I would just keep on wondering what would happen to my family if something happens to me. So
Right.
my pulse absolutely dropped, and I would just keep on lying down the whole day, just thinking about an impending doom.
Right.
So
Right.
which is probably not there. It's just a figment of our imagination.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we let it fester in our mind, and that is how it just keeps on multiplying. That's anxiety attacks keep on multiplying.
Multiplying. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
Hello, madam.
Anything else?
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
May I add?
Just one
Am I
request I have from every one of you, please mute yourself if you're not talking, so that at least we can hear and give respect to the person who is making an initiative to talk, right? Because that also requires a lot of courage to come forward and say their viewpoint, right? Because here we are in that space where we are not going to judge anyone, and we are going to be talking about things that what one is going through, right? So let's have that respect for each other, and let's mute yourself. If you're not talking, please do that. There's a lot of background noise that's coming. I'm not able to hear. So yeah, please go on. Yes.
May I speak, ma'am?
Yes.
I actually didn't introduce myself. Dr. Rinjan. According to me, stress, whenever there is any change in life situations, I just some amount of stress.
Okay.
And according to me, for anxiety, any kind of thoughts regarding future, anything we keep on thinking of what is going to happen.
Okay.
Bring anxiety.
All right. All right. Any other viewpoint, if anybody wants to add?
Stress, what I feel stress is actually whenever we are attached to certain outcome or certain circumstances, and how mind perceive it as it should be like this, but certain things doesn't go in that way. So I do feel stressed out during that time.
Yeah.
And being mindful really helps us during that time. And anxiety is something which is physical, which we have physical symptoms, as in like tremor and all, everything sweating, all of those palpitation and all. So I do feel that is like anxiety has a physical symptoms moreover.
Okay. All right. I'll just move on to the slides now. Yeah. So as you can see that here, I have also tried defining, and whatever all of you have said, it does mean a lot of similar to what you have put everything together in different forms. You'll have explained and expressed certain situations and certain things, what you've already been going through in your life. Can understand that. So both stress and anxiety, we are going to be talking about in detail. And we'll also be discussing about the coping strategies, how to manage stress and how to cope with certain situations. What are the things that can be in our control? And there are certain situations which are not in our hands, right? So we have certain things that is coming along, and we will be talking about that. But a very simple definition that we can, define stress, that, in any under circumstances which is being present, right? It's kind of a pressure that we feel, right? So this pressure is not just the real pressure, but it is also something that we perceive, right? And we believe that, we do not have certain enough resources to cope with it, and that pressure becomes very overwhelming, right? Do you agree with this? Do you agree with this statement? That sometimes we have the pressure of doing something, but then at the same time, we keep perceiving it from a distance, right? Even if we have some assignment to be finished, right? We need to complete it on a certain period of time. But what happens, we keep on thinking, how should we do it? What needs to be done? Whether, is it so urgent to be finished right now? What are the processes that would be, needed, right? So sometimes we are just thinking about a situation just over and over again, right? It is actually not very pressuring at times, but it's just the pressure and the perception that we have over a situation, right? Anxiety, it means that your body's the natural response to stress, right? For example, it's a fear of feeling apprehensive when something is about to come, right? When you have to begin for a new job, for example, then there's always this apprehension, or a student going to a new class, right? There's always this apprehensive feeling, what's going to happen to my first day? What is it that needs to be done, like will I have same friends? Will I be going and talking to, my old teachers? Who all would be there? So it is very, very anxiety provoking during that time, right? You must have experienced this, right? When you are even going from school to college, that transition is also a little fearful. It's very anxiety provoking too, right? I'm sure you must have experienced this as well. Have you or have you not? You have?
Yes, ma'am, we have.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Okay, so stress and anxiety, they both trigger the flight and fight response. When our body is both physically experiencing, they are under some pressure, we feel that either we try to run away from the situation or we try to avoid the situation, right? So we try to avoid and we try to escape, we try not to face the situation, right? But how it should be done, that either when a stressful situation comes, we usually adopt this phase where we try to just escape. We try to either avoid or escape, or we are not able to fight in a given situation, or we are not able to stand there and face the situation, right? So can anybody give me an example of this fight and flight response? When does this happen? Can anybody think of it?
When somebody is trying to confront you for a truth, either there's one way is that you come out and say that okay, right, this is the truth, or the other way is like either you avoid the question or you just tackle it by stating a lie. That is like a flight situation. So the fight or flight, maybe.
Right. Or for example, if a person has fear of dog, right? What has happened in that situation? Will you just stand close and observe, or will you just see it from a distance and run away from it?
So I come up with this. I was always scared of dogs, like any kind of pets. I was always scared of them. So anytime I used to see any dog, I used to run away. That is what, I used to take a flight. Okay. But now, after, after many years, now I have got used to dogs, because that happened because I wanted to fight for it. I didn't want to run away from all the good experiences that you're going to get from all the pets, animals, basically. So now I'm fighting it because I got used to them. I went and, pampered few dogs.
Right.
So.
Right. Okay. All right. So we also define stress as the inability to cope, with a certain situation where, either I mentioned that it's the real or the imagined threat, right, to one's mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being, right? So it often results in a lot of physiological responses and adaptations. Like, for example, if you're fearful from dogs or any kind of pet, so there are different physiological changes that you experience, right? Either your body would start shivering, or there would be palpitations. You would sense that your the heart is pumping faster, and you're just very scared and you're very worried. Like at the time that you mentioned, right? One of you mentioned, that when a student is about to receive the the answer sheet, so the physiological responses are very different, in such a situation. But the important word is to emphasize here is that, we kind of perceive a lot of things. It's not a real threat, Sometimes we are imagining it, or we are visualizing that situation in our mind, right? Whenever you've given the exam, that the results would be out, some or the other day the results would come, but in the mind you keep processing about the result again and again, rather than focusing on what needs to be done or how the paper has to be prepared well. We keep on thinking about the results, the analysis, right? We keep on thinking about that. So that's what they are trying to focus, that, we are perceiving the threat to an extent that physiological responses are much higher in that state. Now I'll just talk briefly about the symptoms of the stress. So here you can see that these are few symptoms that has been listed. Inability or moodiness, interrupted sleep. The sleep pattern gets very disturbed when a person is in stress. There are frequent headaches, minor, to migraine. You must have seen some people have complaints for migraine as well. There's upset stomach. I've also seen a lot of cases with, upset stomach, interrupted sleep, and, there is this increased blood pressure when there's too much of stress in the body. So a lot of people, for example, teenagers, they always complain of, upset stomach. Students basically, they keep on saying that I don't want to go to school because my stomach is upset. I'm having a headache. I don't want to go. So that's more of an avoidance and escaping from the school. Changes in the appetite is also seen. There is chest pain. There is, making those physical problems more worsened, right? And there is this unhealthy coping mechanism which is also being adopted, right? When you're not able to cope with stress, then the unhealthy pattern of thinking also starts and the behavior is also disrupted. Now, not all stress is bad, right? Some stress is good also, right? There is both good and bad stress. Have you heard of good and bad stress earlier?
No.
Heard about
Stress
it?
is only bad stress.
Yes.
Yeah,
stresses could be
it
good.
was in class 12th when the chapter is there, meeting life challenges.
Right. So Hans is one of the person. Yes, please.
No, there is the opposite of stress that actually pushes us to do things that we are afraid of doing otherwise.
Right.
It's called eustress.
Right. That's
So
what
it gives you an adrenaline rush to finish your chores and be done and be ready for whatever you need to face next. So that's something.
Absolutely. So for instance, like a child wants to go for a picnic tomorrow, right? So the child would always be very excited, or usually get excited of packing things up and planning for what's going to happen tomorrow, all excited. The time that he or she has to leave home would be 8 o'clock, but they all would be ready about till 6 or 7. Otherwise they will not get up for school. But when they know that they need to go for some picnic or some vacation, then they are not very stressed, that they are very happy, they're very excited about the new things, right? Any other example that you can think of eustress?
Ma'am, the motivators that are present in an environment which invokes you to do better in your job or your academics, that are the stressors or the trigger points that motivates you to achieve. That is a good stress. You feel stressed that I haven't completed my particular goal. So the little amount of stress which is keeping you productive or keeping you engaged in any kind of work is eustress.
Right. All right. So something that gives you sense of achievement, enjoyment, satisfaction, all that is good. The situations that makes you, you feel good about certain things, and you're excited, you're motivated, and you're very goal oriented on certain tasks. That is eustress. On the other hand, what is distress? What does distress means?
Ma'am, I have a doubt.
Yeah.
So when you say about certain, certain ways where they use stress, as you told that certain stress is good. So if in case we are planning to do a bungee jump or a trek, which you have never done previously, but all of a sudden when you're doing it, you get that, you start feeling that stressful, and over the period, you start sweating, you start, your heart pumps much more faster and all. So how do you differentiate?
So this is that type of stress where you are excited, where you are having a satisfaction of doing something good, right? It is somewhere you have a sense of satisfaction in what you're doing. You're trying to do something adventurous, right? Here you are trying to do something out of the way, where you are trying something new. You are curious about certain things that needs to be done, and you're trying to keep yourself. Those physiological changes would be there, but because your thoughts are in a certain way, and that's why your body is also responding in a certain way. That's why you kind of sweat or feel that way. Yeah.
Okay, so basically you differentiate the eustress and distress with the perception of thoughts what you have. That's what you're trying to say? Okay,
Yes,
thank you. Yeah.
Or maybe, as she said, like when you're bungee jumping, if it is voluntarily taken, then it might be a eustress. Though you're feeling, little, unpleasant emotions because of fear or anything, but it is eustress because you're taking it up voluntarily. But if somebody's, forcing you to do bungee jumping, then it is a distress.
Yes, because that's not your choice, and then you have unpleasant feelings, and then you're crying, and then you are feeling unhealthy about those thoughts. You don't want to do, but you're just pushing yourself, and after that you won't feel good. When you are doing it for satisfaction or for some achievement, there is another feeling of joy that is there within you, right? But when you are doing something on the complete saying of by someone, like if somebody has told you to do something, then you're doing it, then the pleasure is not that much because it's being told by them and it's been forced in a way. So, right, you don't feel good about it, right? So that is there. So distress is somewhere where you feel, unpleasant, changes happen, or situation where you start feeling very bad about certain things, right? Then you have distress. Like, for example, you have loss of a significant person in your life, or, loss of a job. All those situations does create distress, and you start feeling extremely worried, and you feel tired, and you don't feel good about it. And in some situations, you also have psychiatric conditions which comes in, right? You might feel depressed, or there would be severe anxiety issues that might come in. So there we need some professional help to reach out and talk about it, right? Next, impact of stress on health. So it has short-term impacts and long-term impacts. So in the short-term impacts, it affects the heart, it affects the digestion rate, the muscle tension, hyperventilation, choking in throat, right? Trembling of limbs. All these are the short-term impacts. In the long term, there are some chronic problems that takes place, right? You must have seen people have BP, diabetes, hypertension, all of those, problems results in chronic levels where the impact of the stress is for the long term, right? Long-term impact is there, and that leads to chronic problems. Now, people start adopting unhealthy ways of coping in order to deal with stress, right? Which is very unhealthy. For example, people start smoking, they start drinking too much, right? They start eating way too much, they start sleeping way too much. So all these patterns of behavior, we have to be mindful, and we need to understand that the unhealthy coping style could lead us to, rather than de-stressing ourselves, it leads to more chronic problems. So we need to be careful. We need to understand the signs and symptoms and be more aware of it, right? Now, this is very important while we are managing stress. There are 4 A's of stress management, right? So change the situation, or you have change your reaction, right? There are 4 A's. So you have avoid the stressor, alter the stressor, adapt to the stressor, and accept the stressor, right? These 4 things we need to be mindful of. So can I ask any one of you if you can explain me what does this mean when you are saying changing the situation, either you avoid or alter the situation, the stressor, or in reaction, are you adopting and accepting the stressor? What does that mean? Can anybody share their experience?
In avoid the stressor means we have to use the technique of avoidance. Like some of the things which give us stress, but we are having a solution of it. So we can avoid that situation.
Right, absolutely. Anything else?
So I think we have to, consider first change our reaction, because In change or reaction, it is saying that accept the stressor. So we have to accept where we are standing right now, in which situation. First, accept it. Something is creating stress. Yes, it is. So accept it and then adapt to it, and then make the necessary changes. That is what I think. Then, if you are ready for it, if you have accepted it, and then it is easy to change the situation. You can't directly go and change the situation with without accepting the stress, or because if you don't accept, you don't know the proper strategy to change the next outcome. So I think first we have to accept it and change ourselves, like change our reaction to it, and then change the situation. If you can't change the situation, at least you can move on.
Okay, that's the better healthy way of coping with the situation. That's good. What else can anyone
Ma'am, I guess for change your reaction, to change your reaction, it is generally for the kind of stressors where we are unable to avoid them. Like for example, if it is an example, I have an exam to attend.
Right.
So there is something. It is something that I cannot avoid.
Right.
And I cannot alter also. So what I have to do is, first thing is I have to accept that yes, I have got an exam. The second thing is adapt, is in the sense like how much ever I have learned, or whatever I know, I have to understand that, and then how much is left. I have to make ways to try to finish off my portions so that I can attend the exam the best way I can.
Right.
That is something for change your reaction. So in
right.
situations where we cannot avoid the situation,
Okay.
and for change the situation, the avoid and alter is something where we can actually avoid the situation completely.
Okay.
Like I have fear of dogs, so I just try to avoid the areas which I know that are more prone for, like the dogs are more in that road or something. I will just try to avoid that place. Or to alter, I can ask my friend or someone to accompany me in that place.
Okay. All right. Let's see what is there. Just a moment. Okay. So when we say that avoid the stressor, we need to keep these things in mind, right? So learn how to say no, which is very important, right? Taking on more than you can handle is basically, you're adding more stress to your own self. So we need to be mindful of the fact that we say no to certain things that comes our way. If you are already, having a lot of work, if you are already loaded with a lot of things, then please try to say no whenever it's possible, that this will not be possible for me. Clearly communicate and express this to them, even if you say no, nothing will happen, like nothing is going to just कुछ ऐसा नहीं है कि रुक जाएगा या आपके बिना कुछ हो नहीं पाएगा, ऐसा नहीं होता. Things will flourish the way it will be. So even if you do not go for one party, or even if you do not go for one get together, if you don't feel like, it's completely okay to say no, right? So we need to learn to accept that saying no is very normal, and it's just okay, just for your own self, it's just fine. Avoid people who stress you out. A lot of times the environment plays an important role, where there are people whom we feel that they are affecting my own state of mind, and there are some relatives, or there are people who just talk a lot about it, and they add more stress. So it's better not to talk a lot with them or just be around them. You can have your own space, and even if you are in that space, you can learn to let go or not focus more on those things. Sometimes we do need to do that to have a better environment for us. I understand that a lot of things are not in our control, but whenever, even if something is in our control, we should make the most of it, right? That's important. Take control of the environment. If the evening, makes you feel anxious, turn the TV off, or if you feel that, something is just causing a lot of stress to me, I simply do not have to force myself while facing it all the time, right? I do need to understand that avoiding certain things, or, the environment which is not in my control, I can make that in control of myself certain times. So even if we are talking about those topics, which creates a lot of argument, resentment, guilt, and discussing more about the past, it also adds a lot of stress. So we can stop arguing that as well, and repeatedly saying the same thing again and again, it adds more stress. So these are some things that we need to keep in mind, right? Even you can just note down a lot of things that is there with you, right? If there is so much that you're already occupied with, you can just list them down. You can make a to-do list, and depending on the priority of the task that you want to do, you can focus on each task. For example, like if you want to do 3 important things in a day, right? So you can simply make it possible that, okay, I'll prioritize on these 3 things for now, and rest of the things I'll do it later or tomorrow, but make sure that you complete those 3 things that is there, because you have already prioritized it, right? That is about the avoiding the stressor. Second is alter the stressor, where you are expressing feelings instead of just bottling them up, right? It's okay to share whatever is coming to your mind and talking about it. Maybe in the family or even in the therapy, if you want to share with a professional, you can definitely reach out and talk about it instead of just putting everything on your own self or just bottling up your mind, right? You also want to be, having a better time management for yourself, and having some me time is also important, right? So managing that time better is also very, very essential. You can be more assertive with things. If you have chosen not to do or not to go somewhere, you can say no and avoid that place, that you don't feel like doing it or you don't feel like going it. And it's okay to have your own me time. Okay, now adapting to the stressor. This is another way of coping with the situation, where you try to view the stressful situation from a more positive perspective, right? So what situation that can be? Can anybody give me an example how we can adapt to the stressor?
I mean, what I feel is sometimes what happens is there are times when we don't understand the person. There are situations when we just misunderstand, or we would have already judged that particular person a certain way. So we try to follow that mindset throughout the process. But then once we try to stop ourselves, stop our thoughts, and stop our judgment, and just see the person the way he or she is, then most probably it is much more easier to adapt to the stressor. I mean, I've gone through a couple of this, so I think this is an example I feel. Yeah.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. So while we are trying to work on the adapting part to the stressor, so it could be any stressor that you are trying to look, like, for example, the change of the job, that's the very recent example. So whenever you are trying to work on figuring out the new environment in the job, sometimes what happens is that you may not find the environment very comforting or friendly, or you may not find similar people whom you could interact with, right? But you still need to give time and understand that, okay, maybe it's a new job, it's a new place, things will take time, and it's not very easy, but I have the courage to face everyone and focus at my work. So as in when you gain the motivation to work, your priorities change, you start interacting, you start taking initiative, you start looking at the bigger picture also, right? That it is not the job which is making me stressed, or it's not the people, but my own intention of doing is also getting very disturbed. I need to check myself, is it my personal stress, or is it my official professional stress that is causing me any kind of anxiety or fear in my mind. I need to understand that better. And definitely my big, the picture that I want to see, that what I'm gaining from this is more important than all these things, right? At the end, what I am giving any value, or, I'm adding something to the organization, or adding somewhere where, I'm trying to put my hard work, that is more important, right? So that's what I was trying to say, that set some reasonable standards for oneself and others, right? And learn to say, okay, with, being good enough with certain things. Our expectations are very much more, all the time. We expect a lot, but we expect a lot from others. But are we expecting a lot from ourselves as well? That also we need to check. So focus on the positive part. So you need to take a moment to reflect on yourself, see things that you have, a job right now, right? I mean, or you have a course that needs to be done. You should be glad that and happy of things that you have. Not a lot of people get a chance or an opportunity to work or to have something in their life, right? So we need to be grateful. We need to be appreciative of things that we have.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, what was 5 into 5 rule? What was it? It was in the example.
Where? Okay, look at the bigger picture. Take a stock of the
Yeah.
stressful situation. So this
Yes.
5 into 5 rule is like, it works according to the senses, right? Sometimes, when we are trying to look at the picture or the big picture that we want to see about future or we want to imagine, right? We are
Yes.
not only just seeing it or hearing it, but we are also feeling it. So it applies on that rule, where we
Okay,
are
so
perceiving it, hearing it. Yes.
So we have to use all of those 5 senses, maybe.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am?
yes. To perceive the bigger picture, like what we are hearing from people around, what we are seeing, we are thinking, what we are taking inside. So that's the internal processing that we need to do. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Alter the stressor. I think we've discussed this, accepting the stressor. So here we need to understand that, don't try to control the uncontrollable things, right? And even there would be many things in life that would come beyond your control. So especially the behavior of others, you cannot control and change them. So let's be mindful of our own self, of what we are doing, rather than trying to change the other person, because nobody is perfect, right? So we do not have to make the other person also perfect because we want to be perfect in our lives. No, nothing like that. So look for the upside as well. Look at them and opportunities for personal growth and accepting the situation, the people and everybody around us, right? The way they are, right? Even if, you want to seek for therapy sessions, start sharing those feelings and, your feelings of joy, feelings of happiness whenever you are among people, right? Even learn to forgive and, free yourself from these negative energy or thoughts that you might be holding on to, right? We hold a lot of baggage of the past about, keep thinking about future. We keep worrying about things which are not very important to us. So we need to learn to accept the situation, the things that we have, and let go and forgive people and, whatever has come our way, right? We cannot just hold them for a very long time. Now, these are some stress management tips that I wanted to discuss here, right? So is this clear till now? Have you all understood the 4 A's that we discussed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. So in stress, yeah, any questions? Any doubts? No?
No.
Okay, all right. So in these stress management tips, first step is to identify the stressor, right? So whatever stressors that you might be experiencing, you do need to understand that it could be a failure, it could be lack of motivation to even pursue any course. That could also be a stressor for you. It can be loss of a job, loss of any parent, or any sibling, or any death of a significant person, right? It could be that way, where we could identify the stresses. So we need to learn to help in accepting responsibility for the role or the individual, the person that is playing the role, right, in maintaining the stress, or else the stress level will remain outside their control, right? Because you're not able to control that stress and it just becomes out of place for you, right? If needed, you need to take out time for family, friends, and, any activities that are of your interests, your hobbies, right? Do take out time for that. At least half an hour is very, very important in a day if you can take out for yourself, That's extremely important. Some problem solving techniques which could also be helpful in, clarifying and clearing out there is any problem or some solution that could be possible to deal with that, right? And putting everything all together about the pros and cons of each option, of if you're faced with any situation, understanding in detail is also very important. Here you can also practice some calming techniques. Some grounding techniques could also be helpful, right? Deep breathing or progressive muscle relaxation. These are the ways of relaxation exercises. We also do these exercises to manage stress, anxiety, in a patient. We also work on certain behaviors. We help them to train certain exercises, and then they need to practice this every time, at home. These are some homework assignments that is also being given to them in order to feel relaxed and calm, right? Certain communication skills have also been taught. Some time management strategies where they can prioritize their task and manage their task accordingly, because there's a lot of time the procrastination happens, right? When we are stressed, we don't feel like doing anything. We lose interest in the activities that makes us happy earlier, right? So we keep on delaying the task because we are not able to understand that how important the task is. We are all dependent on our emotions, right? If I'm not feeling well, I'll not do anything. But we will not understand that, okay, I'm not able to accept and acknowledge that I'm not feeling good, but yet I'll still try and, make effort to do something. We don't do that usually. So then the task gets pending and the due date to, do certain tasks is just over, and then we realize and feel guilty about the same. Some regular exercises, yoga, eating healthy, the healthy habits, maintaining proper sleep activities, and, the schedules, sleeping on time. Usually when stressed, we are sleeping very late, usually seeing our phones or, waking up till 3 and 4, and, we are sleeping late, so we are not able to feel good throughout the day, right? And some mindfulness based exercises that could be very much helpful. Stress journal. Have you heard about stress journal? Does anybody do journaling here?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what kind of journals do you use, and how does it help you?
Whatever is on my mind, I just write it down so that I'll be gaining a lot of clarification of what situation is triggering me and how will I be able to, just talk to myself in a way which will be helpful, kind of. So I do that.
Okay. I'm sure that was really helpful, helping you in the best possible way, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It gives a lot of clarification.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, I practice gratitude journaling.
Yeah,
So
very nice.
that way, I am much more thankful for the things that I have rather than stressing and cribbing about the things that I've lost. And also I have an overview of the positive things that I have in my life.
Very
So
nice.
that reduces the stress and anxiety in daily life.
Yes, that's very nice. We need to have that gratitude and acceptance of what we have. In a day's, time, what happens is that throughout the day, there may be a lot of things that we are going through, but before sleeping and, after waking up, our subconscious mind is very active, and whatever we feed in before sleeping and after waking up, it usually, manifests into different forms. So whatever visuals you give or whatever thoughts you give before sleeping, the processing is going on throughout the night, right? You're just thinking about it somewhere or the other. So we have to be very careful of what we are taking in a day and what we are giving out, So that's very, very important. We have to be very, very careful on that. Just a sec.
I have created a journal that I give away to my clients. So that
Okay.
basically has a lot of interesting things in it, because
Okay.
I work with inner child healing mostly. So I have a journal which has prompts in them, So it's really good because I asked them to count, because it's difficult sometimes, to find out 3 good things that happened to them today, their
Right.
reflections of the day, and probably what they think that they could do, they could have done
Absolutely.
better, or how they thought that they could have handled the situation better. But I think the whole purpose of creating this particular workbook for them was for them to come back to at a later date and go through it and realize how far they have reached and how much they have growth, to have an
Yes.
accountability of their growth per se.
Right, right. And I'm sure it must be very, very helpful also. And
Exactly.
yes, if they would have been
Especially
practiced.
when they're very triggered and going through a lot of grief, or trying to
Yes.
come in terms with the grief and whatever that they're feeling, the traumas,
Right.
these kind of things really help, because this book is also supported by one-on-one sessions and group sessions,
Okay.
and a lot of help and holding hands, so it kind of
Right.
helps them with the journey.
Right, right. And it's important to even write down certain things, because we don't remember a lot of things that has happened throughout the day, right? We kind of
Exactly. So some of the bits where they write down the reflections basically is things that it will help them in the future to understand themselves better, so they can be more mindful, or be more inculcate self-love and self-care into their daily lives. So
Yes, yes, that's very, very helpful. So when I was talking about the stress journal, we can also write, certain things that would cause, especially if they are going through a stressful situation, it would, we can include these points while writing the journal, that what caused them stress, and you know, how did they felt during that time, both physically and emotionally, because there would be certain changes that they would be experiencing it, right? And if there are any specific thoughts that entered their mind, that is also very important to focus upon, and what response that they got, and how they acted upon it, that's also very, very essential. And what did they do, actually to make themselves feel better, that is also an important aspect that they can include, at least they will get the reassurance from the situation, after writing that, these are the things that I've been going through. And when they are kind of writing it down, it's definitely a different scenario, because what you're experiencing it, and when you're writing it down, both the things are quite different, right? So that's there. Okay, so this is unhelpful thinking styles. Have you all heard about this?
Yes, ma'am, I've heard these words, these absolute words should not be used. Like I should have done, I must have done. Instead, we should be more of a I could do, some of the words which will be helpful. I've heard that.
Okay, anybody else? You aware of the unhelpful thinking styles? Yeah, have you heard of this? Like labeling is also one of the unhelpful thinking style, jumping to conclusions, emotional reasoning, magnification, and catastrophizing. Have you heard of these terms before?
Yes, ma'am. I've heard of this unhelpful thinking styles, like being judgmental also is one of them.
Yes, yes. Overthinking or overanalyzation or overgeneralization, basically. It's also one of the unhelpful thinking style. Personalization. When, for example, when two people are talking, and if we just feel that, okay, they might be just talking about us only, even if they're talking about something else, we kind of personalize our own self that, they might be thinking about me, so that is personalization. So what would jumping to conclusion means?
Ma'am, it means our own viewing the situation and drawing the conclusion rather than looking at from the overall point of view.
Okay.
It's basically concluding things without understanding what is happening. You just make a decision, just seeing the outer surface. Like you just go into a room, you see a lot of people, and you just say, oh, there are people partying. You might be like, you never know, there might be some funeral happening. That is what is jumping into the conclusion without understanding why, what is happening, and without understanding in deep, just getting into the conclusion. That happens because of our own perspective. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Assuming jumping into conclusion is basically assuming your assumption about what is happening without the facts or without proper facts of what exactly is happening or what a person is going through. You just assume that a person, oh, he is always like that, or that person is always like this, or this particular situations. Because we also have this kind of proverbs. If it is, this proverb everybody knows: one for joy, one for sorrow, two for joy, three for marriage. So these are all assumptions, and then we say, oh, one day we see one minor, and you decide, okay, fine, today is done. So yeah.
No, that's true, because we are just concluding on something which is not there only, right? Like
exactly.
Even you are just trying to keep that in your mind. You are just, as you rightly mentioned, that it is our perspective, right? It's our perception that we are thinking about something, and then we think that, okay,
there are no facts, concrete facts to support your conclusions of
Absolutely.
events and people and whatever.
Yes, there is no realistic, rational thinking behind these thoughts. Your thinking is irrational. Your automatic thoughts are so high that it just kind of creates that doubt in your mind that it must be this way, because maybe the thought process is not correct at this point of time, right? So that is one. Magnification, what would you say? Like, a lot of people make things bigger than they actually look like, right? The situation may not be that big, or it may not be so troublesome, but to them it appears that it's, such a big situation has happened and I don't know now what to do, right?
Sometimes it can also be, I might be wrong, when something will not work in our favor, or we are not trying enough to get it done or anything, and we try to reason it, saying that that was not much important, reasoning with negative of that particular thing. We talk negative of that work or that place or anything, so it's like giving justification of why we didn't do, why we couldn't do, so giving justification of our faults and speaking negative of the other thing. So that also impacts our growth.
Okay. Anything else? We predict our future also to be really bad, right? When we are trying to catastrophize, right? Certain things, right? We are predicting our future to be extremely bad. Do we do that? Does that happen?
Sometimes, yeah, people do that.
Yes, the maximum of time we often think that it may be for us to feel better, so that if that situation happens in the future, we'll at least feel that actually the mind loves known. So it feels like it might feel safe that, okay, this I have already thought of, and here
Or
it
it
is.
makes you feel
So that will
prepared.
also be kind of
Absolutely. We hypothetically create scenarios and convince our mind that, this is a fact, and, what you're saying, it's not like we become our own fortune tellers, right? For example, if you have, problems with your boss or problems with any kind of, individual, right? You keep creating scenarios that you don't want the boss should be away from my life, or the person should not even exist, and you start imagining all those things which are very hypothetically it's not even correct, and there is no fact based on it, right? Those are complete irrational thought process. So we do that at times. Then we have emotional reasoning. How would you define that? Do we give healthy reasons to our emotions to be justified, or do we just become very unreasonable to ourselves and give justifications?
Ma'am, when we are not speaking mindfully, in a particular situation, we are drawn into so much of emotions that every reasoning is attached with that particular emotion. That I think the emotional reasoning.
Okay. Okay.
Sometimes we can, when we are biased by the emotions or the judgment is clouded by the emotion, I think that is emotional reasoning, because you're trying to live, put life to the emotion by giving certain reasons. Oh, ऐसे हो रहा है because मैंने ऐसे किया. Oh,
Yeah.
ऐसे हो रहा है. So I think that is more of where you quit thinking logically.
Right.
You do not give more power to logic and emotions.
Right.
Ma'am, I think if you're mindful, if you're conscious enough of the situation that has happened, then you would give a healthy emotional reasoning.
Right.
If not, if your perspective or if your surrounding is having negative talks or unwanted, non-productive talk, then you would give a negative emotional reasoning.
Right, right. Like for example, when you're driving, then you might be just having some random thoughts in your mind, or you might just be thinking about something, and you might suddenly feel angry, and that anger could be, you could reason out to XYZ reason that you might have, and then people coming in your way, or complaining or saying something that people don't drive properly, there is too much traffic, feeling frustrated or irritated and keep honking, so you give unreasonable reasons to yourself when everything is normal around you, and you've come for a reason to go out somewhere, right? So we do not believe in ourselves, and we keep giving reasons to our emotions in a very unhealthy way, right? So
Sometimes the opposite happens, right? We have a very tough inner critic,
Yes.
and which is very dissatisfied with whatever you do and is always chiding you and always
Yes.
criticizing you.
Hmm.
If you were to think out of that space of being an inner critic, you might have done really good things, but then you always think through the thoughts of your inner critic, and then you create a miserable life for you.
Absolutely, that really happens. So that's very important to work on the inner self as well, that is also very
Ma'am, I have a
important.
question.
Yes, please.
So, ma'am, while this, of course, this makes complete sense and it's great, but I do feel it is more theory, and you have been through multiple sessions on stress. But how do we, when we are faced with a situation, how do we remember, these are the 4 points, and this is how maybe I should change my behavior? How do we turn this into practical?
So somewhere when you are talking in terms of when you have the background of what you are doing, right? This definitely doesn't comes very easily while just reading and saying this, but when you are practicing it, you do need to be mindful of your own self, of what you are doing, right? How, and what quality of thoughts you are thinking. So before that, when I mentioned not the unhelpful thinking style, but the 4 A's, if you can try practice and work on that, this will also bring a lot of healthy and helpful thinking styles, right? So that is more important than, focusing on the unhealthy part. Focusing on the healthy part is very, very essential. If you know that you have an unhealthy way of thinking, so identifying those things is very important, right? Talking about it is also very essential.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So how would you perceive this situation? If you see this cartoon, what do you see? What's your perception? Is it really confusing, or, both the people are seeing the same thing, or is their perspective different? What is happening in this cartoon?
What I feel is
There's a perspective difference, and I think this can be sorted by communication.
Okay.
I guess I guess both of them are correct. It's just a matter of different perspective, and both of them can understand each other by accepting each other, that okay, so this is the way you are seeing it things, That is also fine, different opinions. And this is the way how I'm seeing things. And I'm always not only one way of being correct.
Yeah.
So everyone has a different
Uh,
perspective.
Ma'am, I think the 4A's comes here because it's also about the perspective, but the perspective is because of the places where they are standing. When you adapt it, and then when you want to put an effort to understand from the other perspective, when you go and stand in the other person's place, then you'll understand the other person's perspective as well. That will help you to, diversify your thoughts. So you don't have to stick on only with your perspective, stand where you are. You can, you can be open-minded, or I'm not finding the right word, but you can just go and stand in the other person's place or shoes and see the other perspective as well. Because when we are seeing this slide, I think we also have a perspective. This is the third perspective we are having. The two perspective there, 4 and no 3, but we are watching it, and that is another perspective as well.
Right.
So that is what, like, you have to be adaptable, and the 4A's comes in place here. Like, you have to be open-minded to understand the other person's perspective as well.
Okay. All right. Fine. Fair enough. Okay. So here, when you are saying about the perspective, any other viewpoints that you would
Ma'am,
have?
here my viewpoint is that both are speaking from their own experience. Like for a particular person, one might have a different experience, and other might have a different experience.
Sorry. Yeah.
Even if they don't agree about their experiences, each other's experiences, both have different vision. They both have different experiences, so there can't be any conflict.
Right.
For example, in this slide, this left-hand side person is seeing 4 parts, and the right one is seeing 3 parts. So they both are speaking from their own experiences.
Yeah, so basically we are trying to convey that everybody can have their own perspective, and we need to respect and understand each other's perspective, right? No perspective is right and wrong here, right? Right or wrong, in the sense that even if the person is seeing 4 things here, it's okay, and if the other side of the table, if the other person is also perceiving of 3, both their perspective is fine, or both of them are right. Or we cannot judge on the basis of right or wrong, but we can definitely say that whatever their perspective would be, it is okay to think what they're thinking, right? But it is not necessary that each one of them will adapt to their perspective. But what we need to understand is that, okay, if I have some opinion about certain thing, it is my opinion, because I see it in my perspective. But if I just take the control of my opinion, that my opinion is the only best opinion in the world, this is not right. There has to be some mutual understanding that, okay, I respect what you're also saying, because there is also an add-on to the perspective, right? Am I correct?
Can I add something?
Yes.
What I feel is here it is the same thing happening with magnification and minimization. One person says it is 4, and the other person thinks that no, it is also 4. Sometimes we feel that our problem is my problem is bigger, quite large for me. It may not be the same for the other person who is looking at my problem. It can be something like that also.
I won't say on the unhealthy part here, because we're just talking about the perception here, but it can also be said that this is the way people perceive. If even your problem is big or small, okay, I understand that it may be big, but I cannot just hold to my thought that my problem is the biggest. I cannot say that, okay, I have a bigger problem, even you have a problem. We can respect, we can respect each other's problem. Okay, I understand. But what solution that needs to be done has to be figured by each one of them, right? If they want to change it, if they don't want to change it, it's their choice. Everybody has a choice to do that. But the person who is perceiving 4 cannot impose his opinion on the person who is perceiving 3, right? Or even if the person says, no, it's 3 only, and the other person says, no, 4 is not right. ऐसा भी नहीं कर सकते हम. So we have to understand this, that, okay, I have a perspective and I will believe in my perspective and I'm willing to change if you try to explain me if that's possible. So what happens in the client who are going through stress and anxiety, they are also very strong about their thinking pattern, that, okay, if I'm perceiving this in a certain way, it's me who is perceiving, and they are not able to understand what they are doing, right? Because they are under stress, they are under anxiety. So it's the role of a therapist where it comes in, where we help them to understand that, okay, there could be certain errors in your thinking, and maybe I can help you to understand that better, you know. And definitely they do understand that what mistake or what errors I'm creating, and they're able to, you know, find a solution also after that. So that's what I wanted to explain here, right? Is this understood for everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, moving forward, just few slides more, and we'll be over then. So this is very important to understand, that what are these 3 decisions that control your destiny. So what you focus on is very important, what things mean to you, and what to do to achieve the results that you want, right? These 3 things, if you try to focus, it will help you to have a better future, to have a better decision as well. So what to focus on, you need to be very clear on what my attention is going. If whatever you're focusing on, your attention will go and the energy will also flow in that direction, right? If you are constantly wasting your time, you know, going into gossips and talking negatives and having such thought process, your attention and concentration would also be in that way, right? And also what things mean to you. It can just not be the situation, but people as well, or any other you know, situation, things, or etc., right? So how do you perceive that is also very, very essential, and what you are doing to get the results, how motivated you are, how encouraged you are to achieve that, that is also important. So whenever you are in that unresourceful state, the gratitude jar that I was talking about, so this is something we can also.
Ma'am, I'm sorry. In the previous slide, the 3 decisions that control your destiny. Can you please explain the same in focusing the therapist? Like, how do we consider this?
So when it comes to a therapy session, so we do help the client to understand that where your focus is going, right? Where your attention is going at this point of time. The person would only be focusing on the problem, you know, situation all the time, right? So we would help them to understand that, okay, the problem is there, but there are alternative solutions to it. There are possibilities that could help them to work out on that problem, right? And now what you can do in this situation, you can do, those are some possible solutions we can work out mutually, right? And we can also help them to understand that if any stressful situation has come to them, what does that mean to them, you know? Like, for example, if they had a breakup, or if they've gone through a significant loss, then what did that mean to them? We can understand that in detail. So this is just the broad area. There are sub areas as well, which could be focused upon, right? And then what solutions we can achieve in order to, you know, understand the situation better, and what do they want, right? Establishing certain goals with them, establishing certain you know, criteria where these things can be worked out, right? So this could be really possible in helping them to work on their future. Destiny meaning here is future, not destiny as it's like we are fortune tellers or something, no. But how they're able to make a decision for their future is based on these 3 things, right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, yeah. So when you're trying to work on you know, certain states, so there are a lot of avenues that could also help them to earn, right? Like sometimes when there is a loss of job, there is nothing to do, people can work on you know, these areas which could also help them to figure out some opportunities, right? Then nowadays there are work from home, freelancing is there, online courses are there. They have people who in Telegram and Facebook, like-minded people where they can form group and community and work along with them. In Instagram and all also, you will see that people are having pages where they are, pursuing their interests, some people like making those, Macron bags and other things. So they are having professional orders and, people are liking it, and using it, right? Handicraft items, all those things like you can do and, pursue their interests and work on them if at all, you need to figure out what is it that's there in your ability to pursue and work on your own self. So this is also very, very helpful. Some of the coping strategies that you can also follow is that what I have learned today, what did I contribute to improve, or what did I enjoy today? So again, those coping strategies that could be helpful in dealing with stress, right? Sorry, this is also again another thing that unhelpful thinking style, other styles that is being mentioned right here. I think we have discussed about these things also. So I just like this quote, which is being taken from a book, Robin Anthony book. So it just says that if you don't set a baseline standard for what you will, accept in your life, you will find it's easy to slip into behaviors and attitudes or a quality of life that is far below what you deserve. Okay. So it's very important that you set a baseline standard for your own self and work on your behaviors and your attitudes, right, in order to have a better quality of life, right? So there has to be some minimum standard that you set for yourself that, maybe for achieving a particular situation or working on it, that this is something that I have established for myself. Okay, these are just two primary ways how you can also work on changing the emotional states, right? The first one is on the physical body, or working on your focus, working on physical activities, and how you can work on yourself to ask certain questions. This we can also work with clients, in order to help them change their emotional states. We can help them to, give them some assignments or some tasks that would help them to focus more. They work on their physical body and also the way they can control the focus and ask certain questions. What happens is that we don't ask questions to ourselves. We keep on believing and, accepting things that is coming our way. We need to ask the right questions and be aware more on the self, right? So I think the last page was based on using some empowering vocabulary. We use a lot of words and, the vocabulary is mostly in a disempowering way, right? So we need to use empowering language, words that gives us positive energy and we feel positive about ourselves. When we keep saying we are frustrated, we can also use words like we are feeling challenged. When we say I'm overwhelmed, I can also say that I'm feeling busy, right? Or when I say that I am a failure, or, the person has failed, or, when we say that we haven't achieved anything, you can simply say that I'm into a learning phase and doing many more things that helps me to learn every day, right? So this is positive vocabulary again. So these are few words which you can use. Sometimes we, the old language we use, in a way which is very disempowering, but we can use the new vocabulary for ourselves, for the clients, and for everyone around us that could help, generate more positive thoughts in our mind, right? So that's about it from my side. I hope it was helpful and you could take some points and some learnings from this session.
Excuse me, ma'am, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah.
Hi, ma'am. So,
Hi.
can you please suggest some of the methods or the practices that can be, adapted in us to, manage our stress level or anxiety level, or we can teach that to our therapists?
Teach them to the therapist or clients?
Sorry, clients. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I think whatever I had suggested, in the coping strategies that we discussed, you could do that as well. Like, the journaling, the gratitude jar that I told you, right? Like making chits and putting one chit in a jar of what you've achieved throughout the day. Or was there any achievement, or even writing down if there is any challenging situation that you have faced, you can write down that as well. Some breathing exercises, relaxation exercises. Box breathing also helps, that square breathing. So there are some techniques which can be taught to them, and you can also teach them that 4 A's that we talked about. So all those things would be helpful. Yeah. Also coping with unhealthy styles, identifying that what is their unhealthy coping ways to deal with stress, and then changing them and helping them to adapt a better healthy coping ways to deal with stress.
Thank you.
Hi, can you suggest certain books that can be read for like a little more details on how things work and what.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll send those links, or I'll send the name of the books also in the group. That's not a problem.
Thank you so much.
Anything else? So what did you learn from today's session? Can we have like 1 or 2 participants saying their perspective?
Ma'am, also, can you please share your experience with clients, like some experience that might help all of us? Like, how did you, treat them, or what were their stress and what was their situation or something? Can you please share some experience?
Okay, I'll obviously I won't be able to share it in a lot of details or in a deep level, but I can definitely share you briefly that what has been my experience working with clients. So to me, I have been dealing with a lot of clients who are going through stress and anxiety, and currently as well, their stress levels have been really high. So one of them, recently lost a job, and the second one had a breakup, and there was a significant loss in the family as well. And there was one who had problems in the workspace, like sorry, the person had problems in the workspace. So currently also she has been going through a lot of issues. There has been work harassment, there has been a lot of misunderstandings and miscommunication. So she's been going through a lot of stress. But gradually, when I had worked with her, initially the stress levels were extremely high. But after a few sessions, as she tried to cope with the situation better, she also tried focusing more on herself. She tried engaging into a lot of productive activities and started thinking more beyond work. Initially she was just focusing at work and whatever the boss used to say and tell it to her, or even the workspace, the environment, all of those things that we talked, it was definitely there. So when she tried to change herself in, bringing more positivity on the things that she can enjoy and do, her mind also got distant from those thoughts of thinking about the boss again and again, right? So she started feeling much calmer, much relaxed. She started doing yoga, other activities, and now she is not that much affected of what her boss is telling to her, but she's able to manage and cope with the situation much better and in a more positive way. Still she gets thoughts, and because she's in the same environment, she does get triggered a lot of times, but level of getting triggered by the same situation and again is not there as much as it was there before.
So thank you, ma'am. So everybody's healing techniques are different. So
yes,
may I know, like, what exact techniques or the procedures she followed to cope up with her stress?
So initially we tried figuring out her stressors first, and sometimes she used to call and asking for reassurance, but reassurance when there is stress and anxiety, not always it helps, right? So do not reassure the client again and again that, if they have a particular illness, and, if they say that when will it be over or when will I get, so at least you have to be patient and understand that, okay, it will take some time. It's a gradual process, but you need to have faith and believe in your own self. And I'm sure you'll be able to cope with it in a very positive way. So good listening, power, where you're summarizing, you're paraphrasing, all of those skills are also needed, right? Because I listened to her very carefully, and I focused mostly on her concerns that were coming up, because she was very stressed at the initial start of the session. So initial few sessions, I had to explore a lot of things that were going on in the past. And then we tried to cope, focusing on prioritizing the situation one by one, because there were not just one situation, there were multiple situations, but this was the one which was the main problem for her, which was actually causing her disturbance in her socio-occupational functioning as well.
Ma'am, I
Thank
have
you,
a
ma'am.
question
Thank you for
for you.
sharing.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, perfect. So my question for you is, when you tell your client to change the focus, or shift the focus from what is disturbing you, so you even spoke about certain things which starts bottling up, because you're focusing on a different thing, but it's actually happening in front of you, and you're getting triggers, and you're just bottling up stuff. So how do you deal with this? How do you get how do you completely change your focus? How do you come out of
Is
that?
it like, are you talking about the client side or the therapist side?
No, the client side.
The client.
What happens? How do you help the client?
Okay. So obviously the change in the focus, it doesn't happen so suddenly that if I say that do not focus on this, and obviously when I say that do not look at the pink elephant, the first thing that will get in your mind is the pink elephant, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it is not that easy to shift the focus of the person, but the thing is that when you start distancing yourself, or you start distancing your thoughts from that situation, then you see and observe that the focus is also shifting from those thoughts, because you've started giving less priority those problematic situations, and started focusing more on the things that matter to you most, right? Earlier your mind was totally involved with the problematic situation all the time. So we help them to learn to distance themselves through the thought process. Then only they would be able to change the focus, right? Or
Okay.
attend to
So-
different things that they could enjoy in their life.
Okay, so basically you're trying to train your mind in a certain way. That's what you're
Yes.
trying to tell me.
Yes,
So
yes.
I have another question for you. So when you say, you did talk about your client going, doing yoga and all. So how is it that doing certain exercise or
I did talk
certain?
about that. I did say that she started exercising and going
Yeah,
to that. Yes,
yeah.
I did.
So, but then, how is it that a certain exercise or a yoga or a meditation helps these kind of situations, and they try to heal? How does it even?
So basically the physiological responses, as we also spoke about, that stress does create a lot of physiological responses in the body as well, right? Your mind and body, both of them are connected with each other. So whatever you are thinking, it is also affecting your body. So if
Yeah.
your mind is, you're stressed, you're feeling anxious about certain things, your body also becomes stiff, your muscles become tensed. You have problems in breathing, you have palpitations, and you feel that the energy is lost. So not like rigorous exercises are recommended, but at least initial starting of, like, maybe going for a walk or cycling, or maybe increasing some aerobic exercises gradually for 15 minutes, then increasing up to 25 minutes, 30 minutes, like that. So some gradual exposure is given, not suddenly you start exercising and doing things.
Okay.
And maintaining a proper routine, routine is very important. The schedule that they need to do is very essential, otherwise that loss of energy, getting tired very easily, all of those things just comes in.
Ma'am, have you come
Thank you.
across patients or clients who wants to get healed, but they're not ready to do the yoga or meditation, journal? They'll not follow anything.
Yeah,
So they just
they
come to the
do that.
sessions every time and they want to get healed. And you
Yes.
know, they keep standing at the same place and every time they come for the session. What have you like taken actions for them? Like how have you changed? Like what are the things you have tried on them?
So there are other ways as well. We need to figure out depending on what interests them or what would basically work for them, because not every time yoga exercises or any of those things work for each of the client. You know, sometimes it may work, sometimes it may not work, and we cannot pressurize and force them to do certain things beyond their interest, right? If they are not willing to do, and if they do not want to do it, we are not going to go out of the space and force them or push them that you have to do and this will only work for you. No, we don't do that. We only figure out according to what they prefer and what they want to do. You know, what would it interest them? For example, art also has helped a lot of people to de-stress themselves. So you know, either drawing, painting, coloring, or you know, mandala art is also one of the way to de-stress. So some people have, you know, enjoyed doing painting. You know, when they play with colors, it just makes them feel good. It just gives them that happiness. So even art therapy or anything related to art also helps. So that is also one way of doing it. Another way could be, you know, some people like doing knitting. So I've seen one you know, one of my client who liked you know, making bags, making jewelry and all of those small stuff. And you know, she used to really like, you know, her hands, you know, when it's moving like this, and you know, it gives her pleasure, it gives her calmness. And she has a page also on Instagram which she was sharing about. And another client of mine liked photography. So you know, he used to get projects on you know, assignments to do photography for hotels and, you know, menu and all of those food activities. So I think there are different ways what people would prefer and, you know, cope with. So we need to figure out and talk to them and explore those things in
So
detail.
basically, we have to find their interests, which which will help them. So that has to come from their hands. So
yes.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, I have a question for you. I'm Neha. Hi. I have a lot of friends and family who are now facing a lot of anxiety as far as anxiety attacks after the pandemic situation. So, have you faced a similar client and attended to them, and how did you kind of make them feel better?
So again, it depends like what they are doing, or what is their you know, level of stress and anxiety, because it depends, you know, how much you're able to cope in a situation right now. If they are working, not working, you know, the family background, the environment, everything matters. So I have seen one client, which I'm also seeing it at the moment. I'm talking to her, and post-pandemic, you know, she has been going through a lot of anxiety and multiple complaints, you know, at the moment. But she's working, and gradually she's on medication as well. So it depends the severity and everything. So I won't be able to comment exactly how this is being pulled up at the moment.
Okay.
Ma'am,
Thank you, ma'am.
can a counselor refer the clients to a psychiatrist?
Clinical psychologist can refer. If you're an RCI certified clinical psychologist, then you can definitely refer a person to the psychiatrist, depending on understanding what the symptoms are, because not every case requires medication, right? So depending on the severity of the condition, depending on the socio-occupational functioning, you need to take a decision whether this person needs medical help or not, right? And if needed, along with sessions, then you must recommend, you know, it's not that every time therapy would help the person to cope with the situation. Sometimes mild dose of medication along with therapy gives a better result. So we can recommend that.
So when do we know that this particular client needs a help from a psychiatrist, that person needs a medication? So when do we know that?
Depending on the severity of the symptoms, how severe the symptoms are, how much there's the daily functioning is. Like, for example, if they're not able to wake up from the bed, they are just locked up in the room, they are not talking to anyone, they are not socializing, and that is like, for like 15 days or months, or they are not doing anything, then definitely a psychiatric help would be needed. And once you have an overview of the symptoms, and you can also judge on the basis of the interaction and the conversation you've had in the session, and then you can inform the family members or let them know, because the client is not in a state to even share and talk about these things. So taking the confidentiality concern and telling it to them that what I feel is this way, would you be willing to go to a psychiatrist? Because not a lot of them willing to take medication also.
Good. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, I think we'll take
Ma'am,
last question if that's possible, because we're already late.
yeah, ma'am, can I ask something?
Yes, please.
Regarding the question that came just before this, so you said that a clinical psychologist can refer them to a psychiatrist. What is in the case of a counselor? Like, I am doing a course only for becoming a counselor in this case. What are we supposed to do as in when we are certified as a counselor? How do we take this forward?
So again, it depends on the organization that you're working with. If you're in a hospital setup, you have a team where you can discuss, right? Because I am independently practicing and I've been practicing since a long time. So that experience also, gives you an idea where what to do and what not to do with a particular case. But having said that, if you're working in a team, if you're in a multidisciplinary team, you can discuss with your colleagues, you can talk about those cases and let them know that, this is the case particularly I'm seeing, that should I be referring it, or, what should I be doing in particular? And if you can do some psychological testing and you can see that you have some results which are into severe anxiety or severe depression or any other form of psychopathology that you see, right? Like, especially in the psychiatric spectrum disorders, if schizophrenia is there, right? Or any kind of delusional disorders are there, then definitely in that case, the primary help is the medication only. The counseling would not help in such a case, right? But if you are focusing on the neurotic spectrum disorders where you have anxiety and depression and other disorders are there, so you can definitely use the rating scale, like the Beck Depression Inventory, or some screening tools you can use to assess the level of anxiety and depression, and then accordingly you can make the referral.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
All right.
Excuse me, ma'am, but in this case, what if like we have our own setup, and then what if we do not have anyone in our team? Like, how do we manage that?
Yeah, that's what I said, right? आप rating scale use कर सकते हो उस case में, and then you can assess and see that if the severity is there or not, right? And even if you're referring to the psychiatrist, talk to the psychiatrist, right? The person you are referring to, जो कि genuine है, ethical practice कर रहे हैं, and you see a result that is being shown previously if you have referred to any psychiatrist. So talk to that person and brief them about that, I'm referring this person to you having these symptoms. So, the person can also assess at the same time. So it will be a good help for the client, right? We are trying to help improve the quality of life for the client. So that would be helpful. But take the consent of the client first. Do not just share any information with anyone, and talk to them. Is it okay for you if I talk to the psychiatrist, and if medical help, you're ready to take it or not? Take the consent, because I usually take consent from the person whom I'm seeing. I do not refer it like that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, I think we should end now. All right, I hope you must have got answers.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.